Everyone, and welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of Arts, Entertainment, Parks, and Los Angeles River Committee. I am joined by my colleague, Corinne Price. Our other member of the committee, David Rue, has another obligation. He's not able to join us today, but we do have quorum, and we will proceed. And what I'd like to do is take multiple items first in the comment card section. And with that, we have Armando Herman, who has filled out cards on pretty much everything. So you'll get 2 minutes on specific items and then 1 minute on general public comment. Armando Herman.
So we're dealing with a new David W. Louis for El Pueblo de los Historic Monuments, along with Mr. Salvatore Discostanzo. But you know, Bob Blumenfield of CD3 and Plum destroyed 4 craft homes. What good is that to us, niggas? Then you go into item 5, fucking Joe Bull, the Silver-Tongued Cop, in San Pedro, Harbor Highlands Parks. What does he fucking care about city parks, Joe Blow? Then you go into item 6, CD14, Who's-Are? Fat wife Miss Rios is heating up the city and we need more air conditioning for that fat bitch, Rochelle. Then you go to item 7, CD13. We're going to name the Negro name on the star called Negro Jack, after Jack Black on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, my Negro friends. Then you're going to go item 8, LA for Kids Steering Committee. Now, are they steering them in the booty, or are they just adding capital improvements to the parks? Because there's no fucking parks here that follow the ADA deficiencies. We're behind the 2010 American Disability Act on the standard. We don't meet it. We don't have safe path of travel, and we got poor fucking equipment that injure children. Then you go to the last motherfucking item under Bon and Chango Addict, dealing with an extension for concessions at the zoo. What do you want? Some more fucking Monster drinks so niggas can get sick? Those fucking drinks will kill you the same way drugs, alcohol, and poison kill you. All right? Don't get in trouble, fool.
Okay, let's stop for just a moment. Hold his minute, please, for general public comment. And you're going to go in a minute, but I should have prefaced this meeting with you're about to hear some really foul, coarse, racist language, because every time this speaker is called and a handful of others, that's where they go. And Mr. Spindler, this is your first interruption. You get one more chance and you are out of here. And it happens at every committee hearing. It happens at every council meeting. And there's just a handful of jackasses who show up every time and put on the same party for everyone to see. And, you know, you have the freedom of speech in this country to display your ignorance wherever you choose to, including public comment at City Hall. That's just something we all have to live with. And so I will apologize for not prefacing that before the meeting, before the testimony began, because there might be some people in this room who have not been to a hearing before. And I just want to let you know that that is part of life at City Hall, unfortunately. And to the city attorney, I would really like an exploration of at what point are we accommodating a hostile work environment, because we do have city staff that are required to come to these hearings as part of their job, not to mention individuals from private organizations as part of their work requirement will testify at council hearings or the city council meetings in general and are exposed to this hostility every single time. So I'd love to get an opinion at some point in the very near future on what constitutes a hostile work environment for those that are required to be at these hearings.
Well said, Mr. Chairman. I second that.
Thank you, Mr. Price. So with that, and sir, take a seat. That's your first interruption. That's your first interruption. Take a seat.
I'm helping you, bro.
Take a seat.
There ain't no niggas in here.
Take a seat. Thank you. Take a seat.
But ain't
All
no
right,
niggas in here.
so you have your minute, and let's hear your general public comment, and everyone needs to just really follow the rules here.
We do not yield the sovereignty to any agencies. for we're here advocating. I allege that the meeting's transcripts show, as you heard the councilman, Mitchell Farrell for the record, as a council member, devised an official plan to intimidate against myself and other members of the public. Have you heard? He brought out Mr. Spindler's name and Michael Hunt for the record. Many of our subsequent disputes with the city officials and its employees are part of city's retaliation plan. Under 42 U.S.C. 1983, alleging a number of incidents that under theory of violation, discrimination under the Brown Act, we have the right to decide what is good for the people to know, what is not good for them, not for them to know. Sergeant of Arms, you must stay away from suppressing our free speech.
Okay,
Keep the fucker away from us to exploit a rest of your power.
You're done.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Red Chief Hunt. Multiple comment cards, Mr. Hunt. And so what we're doing now is we're taking multiple comment cards and general public comment. 2 minutes for the multiple cards and 1 minute for general public comment.
Good evening, you guys, or good afternoon. I just want to apologize for the N-word being used in here. There's no niggas in here. It's just human beings. So let me correct that from the start. That's
you.
my public comment.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. And that brings us Wayne Spindler.
Yes. So, number one, for the Pueblo, you stole our fucking parking lot and gave it to those homeless criminals. Fuck you to the Louie. We don't want Louie. We want Weezar to go to prison for that. Yes. Number two, De Constanzo, another sellout of the Pueblo. You took our fucking parking lot. Fuck off. Number three, Scrafano, we call her Scruffy. Yes, we say no to her. And of course her financial disclosure's pending because the reason why, another criminal, yes. Number four, rapist, woo, AJ Family Entertainment for a batting cage used to lynch children. No, we're against that. Number five, we have subdivision of the Harbor Highway. We don't know what it is. Fuck number five. Number six, we support heating and air conditioning and ventilation. And the reason we do is because we get very hot on these days. Nice air conditioning in here. Yes, good job. When you do a good job, I say so. Number seven, Jack Black is on the Walk of Fame. Poor Jack Black. He's going to get his star treated like Donald Trump. It's going to look like shit in no time. Number eight, we don't want steering kids. We want to steer kids away from this evil, infested city of drugs. Yes, so we're against that too. Then we have the Los Angeles Zoo. You don't belong in the zoo. Go to the San Diego Zoo. Yes, we don't want you here. Go to the San Diego Zoo and see a real one. And then finally, fuck the easement and fuck Taylor Yard. And now we get to the illustrious general public comment. Now, these two individuals here, they go to every meeting and they constantly berate me, Mr. Spindler, Mr. Herman, and especially Mr. Hunt that you saw. Under their breath, they keep calling him a nigger. And we're really tired of that. Stop calling him a nigger. He's a 3-time Ninth Circuit winner, and he was arrested illegally again twice. In fact, this scruffy-looking jackass, to use your word, tried to file a restraining order against Mr. Hunt, and a judge threw it out and ruled it illegal. And a federal judge just ruled that Mr. Hunt was illegally arrested in suppression of his Second and Fourth and First Amendment rights against Mitch O'Farrell, federal criminal and suppressor of free speech. Fuck you!
You're done. All right, just for clarification, I have Claudia Huerta. Are you speaking on item 4 only? Is that correct? No? Is there a Claudia Huerta, or is that a phony name? Tiffany Grams, is that another phony name, or is there a Tiffany Grams here? And Forrest Clark? No, Forrest Clark. Okay, so there are no other speakers then. All right, Mr. Price, what I'd like to do, if without objections, is take items 4, 5, 7, and 11 on consent. No objections, that'll be the order. What did you say? I did, yeah. Right. Oh, 7 through 11, right, not just 7 and 11, but 7 through 11. Thank you, that'll be the order. And then that brings us to items 1, 2, and 3 together on the commission appointments. Mr. Morales.
I will read all three, Mr. Chair. Item number 1 is communication from the mayor relative to the reappointment of Mr. David Louie to the El Pueblo de Los Angeles Historic Monument Authority. Item number 2 is a communication from the mayor to reappoint Mr. Salvatore de Costanza to El Pueblo de Los Angeles Historic Monument Authority. And item number 3 is a communication from the mayor to reappoint Ms. Elisa Scarfano to the Cultural Affairs Commission.
All right, and please step forward if you are here and you are being reappointed to the various commissions. Please step forward. Welcome and thank you for being here. And Mr. Price, these are reappointments with David Louie on El Pueblo, Salvatore Di Constanzo, El Pueblo also, and then Elisa Scrafano of Cultural Affairs. So first of all, thank you all for serving, and thank you for willing to be reappointed. And we rely on our commissions for advice, and so we're really appreciative of your volunteer time and your expertise on these volunteer commissions. So we can start with you, Ms. Grafano, in terms of experiences you've had in your first term and what you'd like to bring to your, reappointment.
Hello, for the record, my name is Elisa Scrafano. I'm honored and also very excited. I've been honored to be on 2 commissions. I was on Cultural Heritage for 3 years, and now I've been on Cultural Affairs for 2. But I love serving. I'm very excited to have more public art projects approved, and also the amount of public architecture projects that have come through our commission have been outstanding, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of those come to us so we can beautify our city.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Mr. Louie, El Pueblo reappointment. What are your thoughts there? And what's been your experience? And how long have you been on the commission now?
I think it's like eight years.
Right.
Originally appointed by Mayor Villagrosa.
Okay.
And so we've had an opportunity to serve the city, and it's been an excellent opportunity. El Pueblo is the birthplace of Los Angeles, but it is also I believe, the crown jewel of Los Angeles. It's the celebration of the diversity of our city. It's bringing together a tapestry of all the cultural and economic levels of folks. It's been the original place for protests, but it's also been a celebration of art and the beginnings for the Chinese American community, Italian community, the Jews, the Japanese, and of course the original Pobladores. So it's been great. We've along with Sal here on my left, I think we've accomplished an awful lot. I think our objective is to protect the history and the culture of the El Pueblo while remaining a sustainable financial entity. And so along with the celebration of the history and the culture, I think there's been a real appreciation for the utilization of the asset. Sometimes we've been challenged as far as the use of the real property, and then also with the programming. And so I think there's great work to be done, and I'd like the opportunity to do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. DiConstanzo. What are your experience and your thoughts on your reappointment?
Thank you very much. I knew I was doomed when I had to follow Commissioner Louie. He's very eloquent and very knowledgeable, and in the 4 years that I've served, I've had an opportunity to work very closely with him and learn quite a bit, not only about how our commission works, but about how the city at large works. I've met many people, and I've very much enjoyed my experience. It's been a privilege and an honor to participate and to give back to this great city. We have challenges, as you are well aware of some of those challenges, but we have many opportunities as well. And I look forward to the chance to doing it again for another 4 years.
Thank you. And I know as far as El Pueblo, I'm always very interested in terms of how we establish that greater connectivity with Union Station and then the other side of the 101 freeway to the Civic Center. And in proximity, it's all so close, but there's a psychological barrier somehow with these three very distinct and very important parts of the city. And I know there's the master plan, and I know a lot of that is considered on the commission, and I'm just interested in how we further that connectivity in real terms in the future.
Absolutely. Councilman Price took me aside many times and said, hey, these challenges are really opportunities and work clothes. And so I'd be very interested, and I think the commission would be very interested in hearing your thoughts and ideas, because you are dealing with the transportation hub of Southern California at Union Station. You're talking about the birthplace of Los Angeles. You're talking about 44 acres of land that have the opportunity to springboard into, great facilities. You're aware the county is activating their surface parking lot. They're providing parking for 1,700 cars, residential for over 350 units, and developing a historic trail from Fort Moore all the way down to Union Station. So it's almost like a clean canvas that we can paint something that the city can be very, very proud of.
Terrific. Wonderful. Mr. Price.
Look, I just want to thank the commissioners for agreeing to serve, agreeing to continue serving. We know how important the arts and culture is in our community. It's an important resource. And I just share your enthusiasm trying to figure out how we leverage that, to provide greater understanding, greater appreciation, greater support, and even more diversity in appreciation of these resources as Pueblo, but also how we are using our cultural affairs resources. And I know that you are committed. I know the executive director who's with us is very committed to that diversity. So I look forward to working with you, with all of you, as we strive to really create the kind of community where people want to be a part of and appreciate the history and legacy that's here, and the promise for the future. Yes. I think that's what art and culture is about.
That's right. Thank you, Mr. Price, and thank you for recognizing Danielle Brazile, our General Manager of DCA. Welcome. Thank you. So we're going to go out on a limb here, and we'll approve the appointments pending City Council. That's where we're going to have a really tough time. No, I'm just kidding. So without objection, we'll approve the appointments and move you on for full reappointment to your commissions. Thank you for what you've done so far, and we'll look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You bet. That will now bring us to item 6.
Item 6, Mr. Chair, is a motion Weezar O'Farrell relative to the status of the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems in city facilities.
All right. And we have our guests from Recreation and Parks. And do we have someone from CAO's office? Yes. Here as well. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, I can hear you. You're interrupting the meeting. All right.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Councilmember.
And we're ready for whatever you have to say about this motion in relation to heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems at Rec and Parks facilities.
All right. So we're preparing a full report, written report that we're going to come back to the committee and show it. But basically, we are having a hard time just maintaining our existing AC units. We have over 1,500 units that are 5 tons or over, and about 70% of them are 15 years or older, and we don't have the staff required to maintenance. So that report will show everything, and as the years go through, it seems like it's getting hotter and hotter every year, and it's important that we come up with this report and start working on some fixtures.
Do we know how many gymnasiums or rec centers just have no air conditioning? I know of one, Bellevue in Silver Lake. It's just not working.
Well,
Do we have a number,
Yeah,
though?
we do have, we actually have some that don't have any at all, that never was installed.
Okay, so we have some rec centers that never had HVAC systems.
And there's
Interesting.
5 of those. I mean, Hollenbeck, Wabash, Wilmington, and I can't think of the other 2. But there is some that Bellevue, we're waiting for the parts. We're going to repair it, but then most of these repairs are, something else goes wrong. We fix something, something else goes wrong.
Like in a gym or the community room or the whole building, just
The
depends.
gym, the ones that don't have any AC at all is the gym.
Bellevue, it's under one roof. The
Yeah.
facility and the gymnasium is under one roof, but the whole thing is, I mean, people are getting very restless about Bellevue, but you said the parts are ordered.
Yeah, the parts
I don't
are
want to
ordered.
make this about Bellevue Rec Center because it's about the whole overall issue, but maybe we could have a side conversation about a date certain for Bellevue. That would be very helpful. Yeah.
But like I said, overall, we have about 184 rec centers, multi-purpose centers, and community centers that have AC units. Each one of those centers has at least 6 5-ton units. So sometimes 1 or 2 will go down. So that's why sections of the building will be working. But most of those units need to be replaced. Or we need to actually have enough people to maintain these units. It takes about 4 hours every quarter, every 4 hours every quarter of the year to perform maintenance on these units. And right now with the staff that we only have 1 supervisor and 6 mechanics for the entire department, which is not enough. So right now what we're doing is we're actually trying to keep up with the demand.
So you're talking about preventive maintenance, just the basic requirement for preventative maintenance, which isn't even being done.
Because of the staff that we have right now. They're busy doing the 'cause they're failing, so we're busy trying to get them back in order so that preventive maintenance is needed and something that we don't have right now. So it's going to be part of the report.
And without preventative maintenance, we shorten the lifespan of the unit as well. So it's kind of like from bad to worse, and it's like that's a problem.
Correct.
Okay. In terms of the CEO, what's your opinion in terms of the budgetary needs?
Well, once the department releases a report, we'll take a look at it. But I mean, the deferred maintenance is always a big issue, and we'll definitely talk to them about trying to include that in the next year's budget request.
It'd be interesting to find out if we could get a price tag of what deferred maintenance costs. You know what I mean? In terms of the deferred maintenance is actually shortening the lifespan of the equipment, and we just go from one bad situation to a worse situation because of that. And that also affects the warranties.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, we need to get our arms around that, don't we?
We should be able to come up with an estimate on how much it would cost in the department to do the preventive maintenance, and that's by hiring more people, more staff. So we should be able to come up with that number.
So come back with a report on staffing needs, financial needs just for the ones that are out of service now, and then funding for just the preventative maintenance that is not being met, and the 5 rec centers that have never had HVAC systems. Yes. Those must be the oldest ones, or among the oldest ones.
Yes.
Right? Okay. Mr. Price?
No, it looks like the study is certainly needed. Yes. I'm looking forward to the report and seeing how we can correct it.
Yeah, and one question that my staff recommended is in terms of working with the General Services Department. Is there a partnership opportunity there with GSD in terms of whether it's resource sharing or best practices? Is that?
We could look into it. It's we could look into it and ask. I mean, until we get our own staff, anything would help.
We should look into that. I mean, if we can leverage existing resources from one department to another, it seems like it'd be worthwhile to explore.
This project is even more important as we make the improvements to the parks, the new gyms, new floors, improvements that we're doing in the interior of many of the facilities. And these improvements will mean nothing if people can't come in and feel comfortable to enjoy them. So
right.
Let's make
And
sure
to
we do it.
pioneer the latest in sustainable construction, so that just the way the building is designed and constructed lends itself to the equipment never working harder than it needs to, just to stay at the level of function that it needs to have.
Yeah, like a few years back, one of our supervisors came up with a red button where the AC only works when people are in there. You press a button, the AC comes on, it goes on for 4 hours, it goes off, and then you gotta press it again. So that's something we also would like to install as we move forward when we install new units.
Otherwise, it just runs all day.
Yeah, it runs all day. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I mean, yeah, because we're open, gymnasium's usually open from 9, 10 till 10 o'clock at night.
Right.
And if there's a peak use, that's when it should be on. And when there's nobody in there, maybe we could just,
Terrific. Okay. Thank you. So with that, we'll approve the motion, and we look forward to the written report and the collaboration. Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to pause because, Herman, you've been interrupting the whole time, so make your way out, and we'll just wait for you before we call item 12. Adios.
Every fucking meeting I go to, I'm always picked on. That's intimidation, retaliation, fool.
Let it just let the record reflect that he's been interrupting the meeting ever since I warned him the first time.
The guy he doesn't fix the freaking air conditioning. I expect you to cool off, man.
Okay, and that brings us to item 12.
Item number 12 is the Chief Legislative Analyst report relative to the easement agreement with the Mountain Recreation and Conservation Authority on a portion of the Taylor Yard G2 property.
Thank you. Mr. Farfan.
Yes, good afternoon,
Yes.
committee members. Matthias Farfan for the Office of Chief Legislative Analyst. As mentioned before you today is the CLA report relative to granting the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority, known as the MRCA, a 12.5-acre perpetual easement over Taylor Yard G2 in exchange for $26.95 million. For some background on this item, Council in 2017 authorized the purchase of Taylor Yard G2, which is approximately 41.5 acres. It's located in CD1. City Council also authorized up to $60 million in MICLA commercial paper to complete the purchase, but along with the authorization of... all right, thank you. Along with the authorization of the MICLA financing, Council also instructed the CLA to negotiate an agreement with MRCA for an easement over Taylor RG2 in consideration of funds to offset costs associated with the acquisition of Taylor RG2. These are the agreements before you today and the report. Before I proceed, I'd also like to acknowledge and thank Bureau of Engineering, the CAO's office, City Attorney, and GSD for their assistance in negotiating these agreements and putting these documents together. Also, guidance from your office, which is much appreciated, as well as input from CD1 because Taylor Yard is located in CD1. And finally, but not least, the MRCA for offering to partner with the city on 12.5 acres of G2 to make sure it's preserved as open space. And we have some representatives here from them today. The purpose and the scope of this perpetual 12.5-acre easement is to restrict its uses. The restrictions would be that it can only be used for environmental remediation and habitat restoration, or public access and recreation. The Lair project, or Los Angeles River Ecosystem Restoration Project, if the city decides to proceed with implementing that project on Taylor RG2, and also for open space preservation. The report before you has various recommendations. The first set of recommendations involve the execution of documents necessary to execute the 12.5 acre or grant the 12.5 acre easement to MRCA for $26.95 million. And there's also an MOU agreement between the city and MRCA, which is an initial outline on mutual cooperation in planning, remediating, and developing the easement area and some initial uses. The second set of recommendations involve the programming of the proceeds from the sale of the easement, the $26.95 million. The CLA's office is recommending that $20 million of the $26.95 million be used to pay down the MICLA commercial paper that was used to acquire Taylor Yard G2, and that the remaining $6.95 million be set aside in a new CIP appropriation for ongoing site assessments and development of Taylor Yard G2. There's also a recommendation to direct the BOE to report back on current efforts to develop interim and long-term uses of Taylor Yard G2. And finally, there's There's CEQA findings that are included in the report regarding the proposed easement, the execution of that. Aside from that, the CLA report includes a survey drawing of the proposed easement over G2 as attachment A if you wanted to see where it's located in relation to G2, and it's adjacent to G1, which is the Bowtie parcel, which is currently owned by State Parks. The report also includes a summary of the terms and conditions of the granting of the easement. It also includes the city's remediation responsibilities for the easement area. If the city proceeds with executing this easement, we would only be responsible to remediate the easement area up to industrial standards, which would be the currently approved remediation action plan for the remedial action plan for Taylor G2. The report also includes a summary of the MOU, which provides an initial outline of the cooperation rules for the remediation, monitoring, and development of the easement area, as well as for events that may be held on the site in the future, and also for dispute resolution in case that, we don't foresee that, but in case they were to arise, the MOU covers that as well. And finally, again, the CLA report provides a summary of the CEQA findings. BOE has determined that the granting of the easement area would not create or result in a new, different, or substantially increased environmental impacts than those that were evaluated in the previously completed and certified layer project, IFR and EIR document. Other than that, I'm here to answer any questions you may have. There's also city staff here from various departments to answer your questions, and as I mentioned, MRCA is also present.
Thank you. Thank you, Matthias, for your work on this, too. This is one of those topics that, was it a couple of years ago, maybe 2.5, that we moved to acquire G2, and then it goes silent in the public view in terms of that, but behind the scenes, all this work is going on. This is a very complicated piece of real estate that the city acquired. And we've been very creative in hashing out these agreements with MRCA, this easement, et cetera. And believe me, my office was happy to play a role in making sure that the city's interests were the priority. And so I want to thank you, Mr. Farfan, for all of your work on this. It's one of those things, it's 40 some odd acres that no one really knows about yet, but once we actually activate it, it's going to be a really impactful sort of catalytic project for the river at Taylor Yard. So I want to thank you for that. And also we have Deborah Weintraub from engineering, who served as a city engineer for quite a period of time, who has helped shepherd this and all river things for the last nearly 2 decades now. So thank you, Bureau of Engineering and the Mayor's Office, the river team, and MRCA. And we really appreciate all the work that goes on behind the scenes, and then it resurfaces when we come to this point. In terms of just a few questions, mechanisms in relation to the easement in case the holder wishes to, at some date, transfer to another agency, whether it be a state agency or another agency within the city. What mechanisms are in place to continue to protect the city's interests?
If for some reason it is a perpetual easement, so the restrictions will carry on in the area forever. But if for some reason MRCA could not fulfill its obligations to that easement area, they could submit a request to the city to transfer it over to another agency that could fulfill those responsibilities. At which point then the city would be able to review that and provide some feedback and would need to approve, whoever they're going to transfer those duties to.
The city would have an approval role in that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's highly unlikely,
Yeah.
but that's the kind of sort of direction that went into the entire approach here. So I just wanted to make sure.
Yes, and again, thank you to your office and you for providing guidance when it came to certain portions.
Sure. I mean, the city's spending a lot of money on this, so we want to make sure that the public dollar is protected. And to your perspective, how do you think this acquisition and then future improvement fits in with our overall goals at the river, with the master plan, and how does it complement, do you think, our goals for the river?
Well, right now, it's very clear in the easement agreement that if one day the city were to decide and proceed with implementation of the layer project where it comes to Taylor Yard G2, that we do have the right to go ahead and implement that project there. So there wouldn't be a barrier from the city implementing the layer project. As far as keeping it, again, it would ensure that at minimum the 12.5 acres are kept as open space on a go-forward basis. And for that's why MRCA is reimbursing the city for the loss in value of the property, because now we wouldn't be able to develop that portion of the property.
I mean, the obvious answer is we can't really improve it if we don't control the real estate. So that's the obvious answer. But I know that there are more nuances attached to this, so that's great. And then can you think of any other risks, environmental, financial, otherwise, with proceeding at this point?
There's always risk. I would say there's no greater risk than if we didn't execute the easement. The reason being is that it's very clear in the documents that the city's responsibility is to turn over an easement area that's clean to industrial levels per the state-approved remedial action plan, which would be something where the city is obligated to do regardless of what that parcel is used for.
Okay. Terrific. Well, thank you. I don't have any other questions or comments. Mr. Price?
Just a quick one here. It says here that the BOA is working with a consultant to develop a near-term interim use for the site.
Yes.
What's in cost estimates? What are some of the near-term uses?
I would
Deborah Weintraub?
to BOE. Yes.
It was inevitable, Deborah.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Deborah Weintraub, Chief Deputy City Engineer. So in January, we started a public process to flesh out what those uses might be, and we're trying to activate the site as quickly as possible. So some of the near-term uses are in line with the uses that we are imagined for the long-term uses: open space, passive recreation, maybe some artistic or performance spaces on the site. But we're still in conversation with the community and with the council offices and the river-focused advocates of what exactly should be on the site.
So lots of opportunity for community input.
Yes.
Process.
Yes.
No archaeological digs anytime soon, right? Because of the nature of the...
Well, we are in the midst of a site assessment where we're doing a more detailed analysis of the site as it was a rail yard for over 80 years prior to any environmental standards. So we will be back to report on the findings from that.
The good news is we have a layer of protection because of the industrial standards requirement, as opposed to a deeper and higher standard that we would have to reach.
But to use the site for passive open space, we will have to
clean it to a higher standard.
So one of the reasons we talk about interim uses is that we may, as funding becomes available, clean portions of the site in order to give the public access before the funds are identified to clean the whole site.
Yes, and I'd just like to add, when the city acquired the property for approximately $60 million, Union Pacific took the proceeds and they did set aside $14.7 million in a remediation escrow account to be used to clean up the property up to industrial. This report's also recommending that $6.95 million also be set aside in the CIP as well for Taylor Yard. So the report does outline some funding sources that have currently already been set aside for Taylor Yard.
So we have at least a down payment toward the remediation.
Yes.
And again, I talk about this, and the EIFDs will be moving forward soon, but Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District allows monies for brownfield remediation. And we're going to find that up and down the river. And so that's another important tool that we'll need if we're going to do what I say real things at the river. And so at least we have a really great start with parcel G2. Thank you. Thank you. So without objection, we'll approve the CLA recommendations and we'll move this forward.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I do believe that completes the agenda for today. Yeah, so with that being said, thank you so much, everyone, and this meeting is adjourned.